Start this off in a kind of an Easter, mood, I guess you could call it. I guess we could start off in a kind of fun way. So you do me a favor, just turn to the person on your left and just compliment them and say, hey, you look really good today. And then turn to the person on your right and say, thank you, but I look much better. Thank you. Well, I'm excited to be here today, and we're really, really happy that all of you folks joined us today. We have an amazing program lined up for you folks tonight. You guys are actually going to have a chance to see a lot of testimonials, and you're also going to get to see some dance, and you're going to get to just see how much God has really just touched so many people just through this last year or so. And for those of you folks that are here, hopefully that you got your raffle ticket. If you didn't get one, make sure you go to the back and pick one of those up, because at the end of the night tonight, you're actually going to get to walk away with a pretty cool gift. I would tell you what it is, but trust me, you're definitely going to want to get it. Everyone's trying to get that little gift. But to kick things off, for tonight, I was thinking about the whole Easter theme. And, I don't know about you folks, but, thinking about what Easter is all about, I think the world really, they think about Easter as bunny rabbits, eggs, candy. Right, how many of you guys are going to do some Easter egg hunting tomorrow? Some of you folks, right? And I started thinking about, I was like, how did we get that from the actual meaning of Easter? Like, you know what I mean? Like the ultimate sacrifice that God made, and having Jesus that came back from the dead, like, where did the bunny rabbits come from? Where did the Easter egg hunts come from? And so, what I wanted to just redo is just remind us all that tonight is going to be an amazing night. And I believe that some of you folks that you walked in, as you walk out, some of you folks are never going to be the same, because a lot of you folks are going to be able to actually feel and see the love of Jesus Christ tonight. And we have so many great people who are going to share with you folks. And one of the first people that I want to bring up to kick things off for us tonight is Miss Sandy. When she went out there, and she's actually going to share a little bit about how she's going out there and outreaching to the community. And she has a little project that she's working on called Love Your Neighbor. So if you could give a round of applause for Miss Sandy Wynn.
Everyone. Well, thank you so much for coming to Trueliving's Easter program tonight. I'm very excited, and I'm sure you are too. So before we get started, I want to share with you, as Tim has mentioned, about a wonderful campaign that we have coming up this summer called Love Your Neighbor Day. Love Your Neighbor Day is a 5-week volunteer event that encourages members of Trueliving and our church here to dedicate one day of community service to our community out there. And to be able to help with that, we've set up different volunteer opportunities within those 5 weeks. For example, there are opportunities to serve lunch or dinner at the local soup kitchens, building houses for less fortunate with Habitat for Humanity, and just a couple more different fun volunteer events that we can be able to do together. The dates that we have aside for Love Your Neighbor Day, it says summer 2013, but we actually have the dates already. It's from July 27th through August 24th, and the last Saturday of the campaign is going to be set aside for a celebration picnic that we'll have at our church. For the event itself, we hope that you will join us in this effort to make a difference. And if you're looking to make a difference here in your community and need to know and find a way how, please join us. And if you're looking to make a difference this summer, I just encourage you to join us. And as you've heard before, how much of a difference one person can make in the life of someone. So imagine just the difference that we can make if we all join together and serve our community. So look out for that. The dates here, and we're going to get more details for you as the dates come closer. But if you see this flyer that are on both sides of me, and it's made by Dip, he's actually one of our dance performers tonight as well. If you start seeing this flyer pop up around our church, and then on Facebook, especially if you're friends with us, And if you aren't yet, I hope that you will be friends with us after the program tonight, and you'll see more details as we get along. So just for right now, for Love Your Neighbors Day, if you see this flyer kind of pop up more often and you see it, you'll know exactly what it's all about. So thank you so much for your time, and back to the program.
Get things started. Alright. Okay, well, you're actually really lucky because the first performers are actually a part of the dance ministry. And I don't know about you folks, but I love dance. I can't dance, but I love the dancing. How many of you guys have ever like watched dance on TV and like, I don't know, I think maybe it's part of being Asian, or maybe it's just me. But like I see it on like YouTube, or I see it on TV, and then I get motivated, and then I start trying to dance, and then I notice that I'm not as good as what you actually see. But you're really, really lucky because tonight the dance ministry group is really, really blessed. They're really good at what they do, and they're just a group of members of our church, and they express their love of what Jesus Christ has done for them through dance. So if you could give a round of applause for our dance ministry.
I'm a witness that you did this, and I'm brand new, so I'm ready to go. I'ma tell the world what they need to know. Slave to myself, but you let me go. I tried getting high, but it left me low. You did what they could never do. You cleaned up my soul and gave me life. I'm so brand new, and that's all that matters. I ain't love you first, but you first loved me. In my heart, I cursed you, but you set me free.
Ministry one more time. I don't know about you folks, but no matter how much I practice, I don't think I could ever do that. That's pretty good. But the next portion of tonight is actually really, really touching. You're going to actually get a chance to hear a lot of testimonials, and you're going to get to hear how much God has really just transformed some people in the church, and you're going to get to hear their experience, as well as you're going to get to hear some of the people that are going to sing and just share with you through music and through song the love of Jesus Christ. So let's give a round of applause for our first testimonial, Miss Brittany On.
Fear flows down my spine like a river breaking the barriers of a dam. A flood of doubt rises through my body as it fills me with panic and uncertainty. My breasts pierce my chest in an attempt to gasp for air. I'm yearning to escape, yearning to loosen the hands of doom that are clasped tightly around my throat. I begin to run, yet no matter how fast I run, or in what direction, my surroundings are still enclosing. I'm suffocating. I can't feel my legs. I can't feel my soul. I have no sense of who I am. Flashing in my thoughts, loud and unable to ignore, are these three words. You will die. Then suddenly my friend catches me in the middle of the street. She throws her arms around me, offering a temporary blanket of hope. The fear subsides and I can begin to feel my body regaining consciousness as she holds it tight. I take a deep breath, and as the oxygen fills my lungs, I feel a moment of relief, but I am not saved. This is a description of what doctors would call my most recent panic attack. But in the pits of my soul, I feel I suffer from much more than that. A lack of protection, a lack of faith. I have had a spiritual attack. Whether self-inflicted or not, I know this will not be the last. It will happen again. I can still remember my first attack. I was about 11 years old at my grandpa's house in Trueliving, looking over the Puget Sound through the window in his living room when it hit. The same feelings occurred as I ran back and forward through the hallway until my mom was able to catch me, lay me on the bed, and firmly place a paper bag over my mouth so that I could take deep breaths into it and calm my breathing. Growing up, I knew what I was afraid of, death, but I couldn't figure out why until later in life. It wasn't that I was scared of dying. I was scared of what would happen after. When I take my last breath on this earth, where will I go? Will I only see the inside of my eyelids as they close from their last blink? I'd ask myself, what is the point of life if all that you have to show for it is death? Years went by of living in doubt and being driven by fear. I feel so much of my youth was lost to the fear and anticipation of the next episode, the next attack. I felt incapable of happiness. I hated being the way that I was. I felt alone, like there was no one else on this planet that could even relate to the overbearing fear always lurking over me, weighing on me. In order to silence my thoughts, I grew an addiction to alcohol. While my friends were enjoying their buzz, I was numbing my pain. I would drink until I was fearless. I did not care how much it took as long as it made me unable to feel. Blacking out was an every night occurrence. I drank so much that I became a soulless shell, still technically awake but not conscious of any actions or thoughts. Countless mornings I'd find myself into a pool of sweat, not knowing where I was or what I'd done. Numerous hours were unaccounted for where I had literally been lost. I pictured death as being a bottomless dark pit of unconsciousness and non-existence, and yet by medicating with alcohol, I had turned my life into glimpses of that very thing that I was afraid of. I am most afraid of death being an everlasting blackout. I spent years trying to find distractions. I wanted to believe in God, I truly did. I'd see people strong in their faith, and I envied that they had no fear. They had no doubt, but I wasn't able to commit. I hadn't been willing to throw in the towel. I still thought I could conjure up my own cure, one that would allow me to still be able to indulge in my forbidden pleasures, but somehow keep me sane. I thought maybe if I had just enough friends around, music playing, or a man to excite me, I'd be too distracted to acknowledge my hurt. I needed whatever it took to keep me from being alone with my own thoughts. My life eventually turned into a sequence of work, drinking, driving home drunk, sleeping, and doing it all over again. Until one day, after a drunken bender, I took a shower to try to settle my sickness. I felt another attack lurking, and I dropped to my knees in the shower and just said, God, please help me. I can't explain to you in a step-by-step format how I came to know God, but I can say that it started from a hunger that later turned into a willingness to seek Him. I had almost killed myself, not only physically, but spiritually, and I reached a point where I had no other options but to give Him a chance. I used to despise those panic attacks. I used to wish I could just be someone else, someone who was not the way that I was. But I can honestly say now that I'm happy to have had them. These attacks were my soul crying out for God's love. My doubt and fear has turned into certainty and faith. Without suffering, there's no healing. God's love is the only medication that has worked. It is a high that is not artificial, embarrassing, shameful, or condemning. It does not take away from my spirit to create temporary relief, but provides for it an endless source of hope and comfort. I thought I'd never overcome my fear of dying, but I can honestly say today that God has rid that fear. I know now with all my being that I will not close my eyes to the fate of darkness, but open them once again to the light, eternal life and love. I'll admit at times I'll come across nudges of fear, trying to wedge its way back into my soul, but it always appears when I allow myself to doubt my beliefs and believe my doubts. I cannot leave any cracks open for distrust to fester and sneak through. Committing to the Bible, my undeniable hunger in church will slam the door in fear's face into Satan's face. I have created a family here at Trueliving that has accepted me for who I am and pushed me to grow my relationship with Jesus Christ. I have planted the seed in my soul that does not stop growing as long as I water it. I have set sail on a new life and a new me, and though the waters might be rough and the winds may try to detour my path, I know that with God I will always stay afloat, and my direction will not be altered. I have yet to have one panic attack since I have fully committed myself to this church and to God's will for my life, and I intend to keep it that way.
Deep in my eyes, there you find what you need. Give me your life, lust in the lies, the past you're afraid I might see. Oh, come running home to me, yeah. You're my love, lover, I'm yours. Yes, you're my partner. You I die for. night. You drink from my lips, you'll taste me alive. You're my beloved lover, I'm yours. There shall not part. It's you I die for better or worse, forever will be. My love unites us, and it finds you and me. It's a mystery.
Hi everybody. My name is Fu, and I was asked to tell you guys a story about my journey with Christ. So I want to first start off by saying that I grew up, maybe like many of you here, in a Buddhist family. When I was younger, I kind of just, I didn't really know what I was believing in, right? I followed the routines, went to temple occasionally, sometimes helped my dad pray at the altar and everything, but I never really knew what it was about. I just kind of did it just because that's what I was supposed to do. And when I got to high school, I started to feel like I was kind of too smart for that stuff. I thought the idea of God or Buddha or whatever was dumb, was silly, right? Like I didn't really get why people needed that. And especially with science the way that it is now, I said, that's ridiculous, like there is no God. It was just a dumb idea to me. And I had been through a lot in my life, right? And so it kind of made me think like, well, if God is so good, if God is so real, and God is so loving, then why is there pain, right? Why is there suffering? And I had these doubts in my mind because of that. So it just pushed me away from God. And then there were the people who I knew, right? People in my high school who had the crosses on their neck and the WWJD bracelets and the Jesus is my homeboy t-shirts. So there were those people, right? But then the crazy thing about them was they were also the same people who were going around and cussing, and they would be having sex with each other and getting in fights at school and everything. So it was really confusing to me, right? Like I was raised like a pretty goody two-shoes kid, so I didn't really, I followed all the rules, right? All the rules that we're told about in class and from our parents. And so I saw that and I thought, I don't get how I'm supposed to be the one going to hell, but like look at the way that you're living your life, right? And so it just kind of, I hated Christians, right? I hated Christians. I hated the idea of God. And I was like, man, they're all just hypocrites. And so it just pushed me away. But there was one friend that I had in high school who was a Christian, but not only was she a Christian, she actually walked the walk, and she practiced what she preached. And because of that, I listened to what she had to say, right? She actually walked out her beliefs. And so she would invite me to church. I would go, and I was just like, whatever, like, I'll just go because it's fun, right? And I'll just go to talk to people or whatever. And that was the only thing that brought me there. I had no intention of believing in God. My parents even like warned me before I left. They're like, they're gonna try to convert you. Remember who you are, like you're a Buddhist. I'm like, no I'm not, like I don't even believe in anything, guys. So I was like, oh, whatever, like they're not gonna get to me, right? They can't get me. And so I continued to go, and I later found out that this friend was also praying for me on a nightly basis for 4 years to become a believer. And so my senior year of high school, I asked her for a Bible. I said, it's really funny, we're learning all this literary stuff, that a lot of films are based on this story about Christ, or there's like baptism scenes in movies whenever it starts to rain on somebody and then there's a change that happens afterward. It's representative of baptism. I was like, that's really interesting. Like, I want to understand that more. So I wanted a Bible, not to learn about God, but to learn about like what the big deal was about. So that, why are all these people writing books and songs and movies based on this story? So I asked for one, and I started to read it, and she was like, oh, this is a great opportunity to get this guy to come to church with me too. So I started going to church still, again, right? With the now armed with the Bible. And I realized, like, as I read through Genesis, I really enjoyed what I was seeing, right? I was like, I don't know why I'm attracted to this. I don't know why I'm still reading this, but I am, right? Even though it seemed kooky to me. And it's weird. It's like the most uneventful testimony ever, but I eventually accepted Christ by continuing to go to church and reading the Bible. And so that's the boring part out of the way, right? So after that, though, it took years for me to grow into the man that God is wanting me to be, right? I'm still being molded, I'm still being shaped. But when I was a baby Christian, I was still cussing too. I cussed a lot. I cussed at church, and I was just not the most scrupulous person. I would like toilet paper people's houses and do bad things. But God really moved in my life, and He really helped me to grow. And there have been so many experiences, so many real physical experiences that I've seen and witnessed of God moving. That like it's undeniable to me now that God is real, right? He's not just in a book. He doesn't just live in this book, but He's real today, and He still moves. He still breathes. He's still alive. And I got to see that right firsthand in my years, and so that has changed my heart from the inside. And so, because of that grace, God really wrecks me, right? I was like the guy who went in speech class and talked about how dumb religion was, when I was getting A's for it. But then God like pulled me from that path, and He gave me salvation, right? So people at our church, they see me cry a lot when I play guitar here, and it's funny, but that's the reason why. Because I was so unworthy of God's grace and salvation and mercy, but He saved me anyway, and He loves me anyway, regardless of that. And so that is the beauty of the gospel. And so I want to touch back on a point that I was talking about earlier. Like, the sad thing about the church today is that instead of being known for what the gospel is truly about, which is love, right? The church is painted in a light where it's just a place of bigotry and hatred and condemnation and shame, right? But this room, this building is a sanctuary. It's supposed to be a safe place for people who are different from us. And so it made me think, like, that is why I avoided church people, right? And now I've started to realize that after I became a Christian, I started to become kind of like that too, right? I started to become kind of like that guy who like judges people and like, I'm better than you, right? I'm like, look at the way you're living your life. I'm so better than you. Like, you're going to hell, dude. And that's horrible, right? And I was like, man, what am I doing? And God showed me the scripture. I've seen it so many times before, but it's Matthew 7:1-5. Judge not that you be not judged, for with what judgment you judge, you will be judged. And with the measure you use, it will be measured back to you. And why do you look at the speck in your brother's eye, but do not consider the plank in your own eye? Or how can you say to your brother, let me remove the speck from your eye, and look, a plank is in your own eye? Hypocrite, first remove the plank from your own eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. Who said that? Some guy named Jesus, right? Pretty important guy. He's a big deal in the second half of the Bible. But even he sees it, right? Even he sees it. Like, man, Christians, you guys are hypocrites, and we need to stop. And so I've been reading this book called Blue Like Jazz, Non-Religious Thoughts on Christian Spirituality by Donald Miller. And he talks about his journey at this college that he went to called Reed College. It's actually in Portland, I believe. And it's known for being a very, very extremely liberal school, very intellectual, and probably a little bit anti-religion, anti-Christianity specifically. And there was this fair that they have every year where people do drugs and run around naked and do, things like that. And it's allowed, it's okay. So he and his Christian buddies on campus were talking about setting up a confessional booth, right? And at first it was this joke, like, these people aren't going to want to confess. But then one of his friends actually turned it into a really good idea. So I want to read kind of what they did to you all tonight. So he says, okay, you guys, Tony gathered everybody's attention. Here's the catch. He leaned in a little and collected his thoughts. We are not actually going to accept confessions. We all looked at him in confusion. He continued, we are going to confess to them. We are going to confess that as followers of Jesus, we have not been very loving. We have been bitter, and for that we are sorry. We will apologize for the crusades. We will apologize for televangelists. We will apologize for neglecting the poor and the lonely. We will ask them to forgive us. And we will tell them that in our selfishness, we have misrepresented Jesus on this campus. We will tell people who come into the booth that Jesus loves them. All of us sat there in silence because it was obvious that something beautiful and true had hit the table with a thud. We all thought it was a great idea, and we could see it in each other's eyes. It would feel so good to apologize for the Crusades, for Columbus, and the genocide he committed in the Bahamas in the name of God. Apologize for the missionaries who landed in Mexico and came up through the West slaughtering Indians in the name of Christ. I wanted so desperately to say that none of this was Jesus, and I wanted so desperately to apologize for the many ways I had misrepresented the Lord. I could feel that I had betrayed the Lord by judging, by not being willing to love the people he had loved, and only giving lip service to issues of human rights. And it continues. They successfully set up the booth, and Donald Miller, the writer of the book, was kind of talking about how he didn't actually want to go through with it anymore because he was scared. Understandably so. He says, I was going to tell Tony that I didn't want to do it when he opened the curtain and said we had our first customer. What's up, man? Duder sat himself on the chair with a smile on his face. He told me my pipe smelled good. Thanks. Well, a group of Christians here on campus, I see. Strange place for Christians, but I'm listening. Thanks, I told him. He was being very patient and gracious. Anyway, there's this group of us, just a few of us, who were thinking about the way Christians have sort of wronged people over time. The Crusades, all that stuff. Well, I doubt you personally were involved in any of that, man. No, I wasn't, I told him. But the thing is, we are followers of Jesus. We believe that he is God and all, and he represented certain ideas that we have sort of not done a good job at representing. He's asked us to represent him well, but it can be very hard. I see, Jake said. So there's this group of us on campus who wanted to confess to you. You're confessing to me? Jake said with a laugh. Yeah, we are confessing to you. I'm confessing to you. You're serious? His laugh turned to something of a straight face. I told him I was. He looked at me and told me I didn't have to. I told him I did, and I felt very strongly in that moment that I was supposed to tell Jake that I was sorry about everything. What are you confessing? He asked. I shook my head and looked at the ground. Everything, I told him. Explain, he said. There's a lot. I will keep it short, I started. Jesus said to feed the poor and to heal the sick. I've never done very much about that. Jesus said to love those who persecute me. I tend to lash out, especially if I feel threatened, if my ego gets threatened. Jesus did not mix his spirituality with politics. I grew up doing that. It got in the way of the central message of Christ. I know that was wrong, and I know that a lot of people will not listen to the words of Christ because people like me, who know him, carry our own agendas into the conversation rather than just relaying the message Christ wanted to get across. There's a lot more, It's all right, man, Jake said very tenderly. His eyes were starting to water. Well, I said, clearing my throat, I'm sorry for all of that. I forgive you, Jake said, and he meant it. Thanks, I told him. He sat there and looked at the floor, then into the fire of a candle. It's really cool what you guys are doing, he said. A lot of people need to hear this. Have we hurt a lot of people, I asked him. You haven't hurt me. I just think it isn't very popular to be a Christian, especially at a place like this. I don't think too many people have been hurt. Most people just have a strong reaction to what they see on television. All those well-dressed preachers supporting the Republicans. That's not the whole picture, I said. That's just television. I have friends who are giving their lives to feed the poor and defend the defenseless. They're doing it for Christ. You really believe in Jesus, don't you? He asked me. Yes, I think I do. Most often I do. I have doubts at times, but mostly I believe in him. It's like there's something in me that causes me to believe and I can't explain it. You said earlier that there was a central message of Christ. I don't really want to become a Christian, but what is that message? So I'll leave you there, hanging for Vu to give that message. Anyway, so tonight, for any of you here in the room, Christians, not Christians, whatever you believe, I am going to use this as a confession booth that I'm sorry for all the wrongs and all the pain that Christians have caused to you. Because that's what kept me from believing. That's what kept me from wanting to know who Christ was. And so if you can find it in your hearts to forgive us, then you'll also be forgiven. And I really hope that that helps anybody out there who's been hurt by a well-meaning Christian, because I know I was. So, thank you.
As my conscience flew, a city little light. It didn't mean much, but lingers still in the corners of my mind. Still you call me to walk on the edge of this world, to spread my dreams and fly. But the future's so far, my heart is so frail, I think I'd rather stay inside. But you love me anyway. It's like nothing in life that I ever know. Yes, you love me anyway. Oh Lord, how you love me, how you love me. It took all of my strength to simply be still, to seek but never find. All the reasons we changed, the reasons I doubt, the one who loved the ones had to die. But you love me anyway. It's like nothing in life that I'd ever know. Yes, you love me anyway. Yeah. Oh Lord, how you love me. I am the thorn in your crown, but you love me anyway. I am the sweat from your brow, but you love me anyways. I am the nails in your wrist, but you love me anyways. I am Judas's kiss, but you love me anyway. See now, I am the man who yelled out from the crowd for your blood to be spilled on this earth-shaking ground. You said I turn away with a smile on my face, with this sin in my heart, try to bury your grace. And alone in the night, I still call out for you. So ashamed of my life, my life, my life. But you love me anyways. Oh Lord, how you love me. Yes, you love me anyways. It's like nothing in life that I'd ever know. Yes, you love me anyway. Oh Lord, how you love me, yeah. Yes, you love me. Yes, you love me. Yes, you love me. Yes, you love me. How you love me. How you love me. How you love me.
Hi everyone. Are you guys liking the program so far? Pretty good? You guys feel the love? Yes. Hey, awesome. Anyways, my name is Chick, and for those of you who are wondering in your heads right now, did she really say her name is Chick? Yes, my name is Chick. Okay. I've been coming here to Trueliving Church for almost 2.5 years. And in the short amount of time that I've been here, I've changed so much because of God's love. Before I came to Christ, I was, you could say, all sorts of messed up. I was a pothead, a drug addict, an alcoholic, bulimic, and I was bisexual. There were 3 sides to me. The side that my family saw, the side that my friends saw, and the side that only God and I saw. And to share with you guys how God's great love has transformed me, for the first time in my life, I'm letting down all my walls. So, and revealing all that was and is me. So bear with me if it gets too hard to understand me. So since I was 8, I've never really been able to trust anyone, especially men. My inability to trust people, guys in particular, was a secret that I've kept until just recently. When I was 8, my dad, my brother Bugsy, and I had gone back home to the Philippines for a while, and in September of 1998, my dad passed away. His passing was hard and confusing for me. It was as if him being gone, I no longer had protection from what happened next. You see, we had people who watched over me, Bugs, and our cousin, and they were like older brothers and sisters to us. So one day I was in my room coloring on the floor when one of the guys had come in to check up on me, like they usually do. And he laid next to me, rubbing my back, and asked how I was about my dad being gone. And I didn't answer him because his hand had begun moving down my back to my waist and in between my legs. And I completely froze at that point. He told me to turn over, and because he was older than I was, I listened and did what I was told. He had a look in his eyes that scared me, and when I tried to get away, he pinned me down, telling me to be quiet or I'd get in trouble. I started crying silently with his hand over my mouth as he molested and raped me. And he continued to do this every chance he got until my brother and I had gotten back home to Seattle. Back in Seattle, I thought that the nightmare was over, but I was wrong. Another man who was supposed to protect me from things like this had his way, and this continued until I was 10. And at that point, my older brother had been teaching me to fight in case I needed to defend myself, and we had moved houses. Going through 2 years of that pain, I put up walls around me. I never told anyone, never allowed anyone in to get too close. And I bottled everything up and I released it in my journals. And because of what happened to me, I went through my teen years hating myself. I felt as if I was forever tainted, dirty. That I wasn't worth loving, though I knew my family and friends loved me. I hated myself in almost every aspect. I hated how I wasn't as smart, as funny, as cool, as pretty, as skinny, as strong. I just hated myself all around. And I hid all of this from everyone, like wearing a mask every day. I laughed harder, I smiled more, and pretended that I was always okay when I wasn't. My family didn't have huge issues. Yes, we had our ups and downs, problems here and there, but nothing too major. One thing you'll notice about my family is that we're tough and we all grew up with some tough love. And as tough as strong as I seemed to be, I was always crying behind closed doors. I was sensitive. One mean line from my older brother could send me crying in my room. My aunt calling me fat instantly made me throw up after every meal. Family yelling at each other broke me inside. And the pressure they put on me to be the best, to make something of myself, destroyed me every single day. Every day I woke up wanting to kill myself, to get away from it all. I wanted to die so I could no longer feel pain, disappointment, and so I could just be free of all of that and be with my dad. And I kept all of this inside because I just couldn't trust anyone. I joked around more, rolled with the punches, and acted as if nothing fazed me when everything hurt. As close as I was to my mom, I kept so much from her and my family. I started smoking weed, taking ecstasy, and I did coke occasionally for years. And I started drinking. To my friends, I was a badass chick and I didn't take any BS from anyone. I was always down to do the stupidest, craziest things just so I could get an adrenaline high to cover up all what I felt inside. I've been in so many car accidents that I kept from my mom because I didn't want her to worry, nor did I want her to know what I was doing, that I was doing all these things. I was high every day, but I managed to keep my grades up and my attendance at school on point just so my family wouldn't figure me out. And I hated the mask that I wore every day. It was as if I was a part of a never-ending circus act, stumbling and falling over to get people to laugh. My heart felt so heavy, so tired of it all, and I carried on like I had no care in the world, danced through life, and acted as if everything was easy. I've always known about God, and I did believe He was real. So many times behind closed doors, I cried for hours asking Him why. Why did I have to go through all of this? Why I felt this way? Why can't I just feel normal, feel good? And I just couldn't understand why all of this was happening to me. At the time, I didn't know why I was asking God these questions because I didn't believe He answers. I had been going through different churches for years. Each church I went to, I felt empty. I felt like an outcast, felt like church was just a routine. So when Jenny and Tim started inviting me to Trueliving, I refused. I didn't want to go to another church that would make me feel worse about myself. And plus, church on Friday nights was just weird. Fridays were party nights. So for months, I kept refusing, and then I began spiraling down. Although I was doing my best to change to be better, I was still messed up inside. And finally, one night after partying, I came home and I laid in bed. I had too much to drink and took too much drugs that I felt like I was dying, just laying in my bed. I could feel my heart slowing down and I began crying. I cried for help and all that came to mind was church, but I refused. It was as if my refusing to go to church made the pain worse. And after an hour, I finally told myself that I would go the next Friday and I just fell asleep. When I first came here to Trueliving, I was very skeptical and very closed. I expected it to be the same as other churches I had been to, but I was very wrong. Worship began and there was a presence that put me at ease, one that I've never felt before. And during service, I just felt like this is where I was supposed to be. One thing that really got me was the love that you feel in this church, in this presence. God's love is what transformed me. For the first time, I felt like I'd come home, and I felt like I didn't have to put on this act anymore. It didn't matter what happened to me. It didn't matter I was a sinner. God still loved me. And His love was so overwhelming that He freed me from my addictions. He broke all barriers that kept me from being whom I'm called to be, and cut me loose from certain ties that wasn't good for me. And I realized that everything that I went through served for a greater purpose. Whether I went through it because of my own stupidity, or because God needed to put me through it, or the world was just plain cruel, I still overcame it all.
That's right.
Thank you.
My heart is heavy from the work it takes to keep on breathing. I make mistakes. I let my hope fail. My soul feel crushed by the waste of this world, and I know that you can give me rest. You can let a heart that frail and torn. I wanna know a song can write from the ashes of a broken life, but not the dead inside can be reborn. Though I'm worn. To lift my eyes up, but I'm too weak. Life just won't let up, and I know that you can give me rest. So I cried out with all that I have left. Let me see redemption with, let me know the struggle. That you can let a heart that frail and torn. I wanna know a song can write from the ashes of a broken life, and all the dead inside can be reborn. Yes, I'm worn, my prayer all wearing thin. Yes, I won, even before the day began. Yes, I won, I lost my will to fight. Yes, I won, so heaven come and flood my eyes. Let me see redemption win, let me know the struggle win, that you can mend a heart that frail and torn. I wanna know a song can write from the ashes of a broken life, and all the dead inside can be reborn. Yes, all the dead inside can be reborn. Though I'm worn, yes, I'm worn.
We rode into town the other day, just
He said I'd finally reach that age, and I could ride next to him on a horse that of course was not quite as wide. We heard a crowd of people shouting, and so we stopped to find out why. And there was that man that my dad said he loved, but today there was fear in his eyes. So I said, Daddy, why are they screaming? Why are the faces of some of them beaming? Why is he dressed in that bright purple? I'll bet that crown hurts him more than he shows. Daddy, please, can't you do something? He looks as though he's gonna cry. You said he was stronger than all of those guys. Daddy, please tell me why. Why does everyone want him to die? Later that day, the sky grew cloudy, and Daddy said I should go inside. Somehow he knew things would get stormy. Boy, was he right, but I could not keep from wondering if there was something he had to hide. So after he left, I had to find out. I was not afraid of getting lost, so I followed the crowds to a hill where I knew that had been killed. And I heard a voice call from the cross, and it said, Father, why are they screaming? Why are the faces of some of them beaming? Why are they casting their lots from my robes? This crown of thorn hurts me more than it shows. Father, please, can't you do something? I know that you must hear my cry. I thought I could handle a cross of this size. Father, remind me why. Why does everyone want me to die? Oh, when will I understand why? My precious son, I hear them screaming. I want unbearable pride. Power in your blood destroys all of the lights. Soon you'll see past their unmerciful eyes. Look there below, see the child trembling by her father's side. Now I can tell you why. She is why you must die.
I don't know about you folks, but how many folks could agree with me tonight that truly in life that there is no testimony without a test? Wouldn't you agree, yes or no?
Yes.
And I'm just so touched and moved by all the stories that everybody shared, and I'm excited about our next performer because I don't really know too much about spoken word, but how many guys are familiar with spoken word before? It's pretty cool. You know, it's a lot of rhyming and it's pretty new. To me, I didn't know it existed until like recently. But this next performer, it's 2 years in the making that she's been working on this, and you know, it was during one of the roughest times in her life, and literally it just goes to show that when we go through rough times in our life, how many folks would agree that we look in so many different places for the answers yes or no? And it just goes to show through not only all the other testimonials, but this testimonial as well, that you'll see that in the end, all we really need is God's love. So if you could give a round of applause for Miss Lisa Lay.
I needed your love. Your love that would make me feel like I was the only girl in the world. Your love that made my palms all sweaty, my heart racing and chasing, but at the same time just steady. Your love that got me started on planning our wedding and naming our kids. Your love that gave me butterflies inside and made me start thinking of words that rhyme all the time to describe what I was feeling inside about when I looked into your eyes. Your love that made the world make sense and me senseless for not even caring why. Your love that turned my gray skies into an array of color because you were my color wheel in this black and white life. Yes, I needed your love. Your love that would make me smile at just the thought of having you. That I am yours and you are mine, and that made me not care about time as long as I was with you. Your love that made the grass green and the sky blue and me okay with not even understanding how that would even relate to how I feel. I just want long walks on the beach, kisses on the cheek, and holding hands as we stroll along the street. The kind of love in fairy tales where you are the prince and I am the princess, and it's a love story, baby, just say yes. You see, I needed your love. Your love that would make me feel at home when I am the farthest from it. Your love that would take me higher than the stars and deeper than the seas, then back to the galaxies where nothing could make me want to come back to the ground. Your love that made me feel safe every time you were with me and every time you were around. That every time I'd see you, I'd fall in love again. Where you love me for me and where everything just seems to fall into place. A love that is selfless and pure and me sure there could never be a love greater than this. Yes, I needed your love. But I couldn't find it in you. Or you get the point. That I searched again and again and then I just gave up. But that was when I realized that I never needed your love. I needed his love. His love that can move mountains and calm raging seas. The love of a Savior who would give his one and only Son to die on the cross for my sins, sins I'd been drowning in. His love unconditional, there before I was even born. His love that took my broken heart that was tired and torn. He made it brand new and told me he'd love me all along. I didn't even have to try to make him love me, he just did. And every time I denied his love for me, he never left. Instead, he waited for my return. Yes, he waited for me. That is the kind of love that I need. His love so strong it's overwhelming, that brings me to my knees, for his love has swept me off my feet. His love that gave me reason to breathe and healed my insecurities and made me see that I need to feel complete in him before I could ever need you. That I need to know what love really is before I can even learn to truly love. Yes, I need his love. His love beyond words and imagination. There's no thinking or hesitation because He is the epitome of what love is and will always be. His love is more than I can fathom, more than the most brilliant minds can imagine. If His love were made up of numbers, it'd be impossible to add them. For it goes and reaches beyond infinity. Everlasting it remains to eternity. I'm blinded by the light of His love and His divinity, for His love is my affinity. How could someone so powerful and mighty love someone like me? A wretched sinner, broken, unforgiving, undeserving, and unworthy of any love, let alone from the one above. Yet His love remains steady and unchanged, but instead it changed me. It rearranged me, reset my priorities, and made me see what love really was. His love that was patient with me. Through the years and tears of my confusion and fuss of trying to find what love was. His love that is kind, shown through the gentle kiss of the wind or through His grace and mercy in forgiving my sins. His love that was selfless, displayed on the cross when He died for my sins. Tears shed, blood poured, wounds cut deep into His skin. A love that took the penetration of the condemnation of this world. His love that defeated the grave when He gave His life in exchange. So that I could live, so that I could give my life and my love right back to Him. His love that is honest, rejoicing in truth. He was never upset or angered when all I was seeking was you. His love that keeps no record of wrongs. Even after all my mistakes, He still calls me His own. I have His love, and it stretches as far as the east is from the west. I tried searching the ends of the earth, but I know that His love still beats all the rest. Because His love was made for you and me. Look no further, because His love is all you need. All you need is His love.